Hi there, Dr. Gila here, and this week I have a conversation for you with Allie Miller, who is wearing several hats in this conversation. She is a marriage and family therapist and also a couples communication coach and an expert in nonviolent communication, which is a method of communication that I think has a lot of really useful lessons for parenting. And we go into a lot of that in today's conversation. She is also a single mom by choice, or as she likes to call it, a sole parent by design. And she has become a dear friend of mine. And in this conversation, she is really open and vulnerable about some of the things that she continues to struggle with as a single mom. A big one being how to bring self compassion and stay regulated and stay out of that blame and shame spiral after you maybe snap at your child, you lose your cool. And we do a little bit of coaching around how to support her daughter's needs for attention and connection while not having Allie's needs be lost in the mix. So I think there's a lot in this conversation that will really resonate for you. And if you, like Allie, continue to struggle with emotion regulation, with keeping your cool, as it were, quote unquote, and not snapping with that shame spiral that comes afterwards, then I invite you to please join in my upcoming webinar on February 4th, which is all about this super important and really challenging topic. And it's something that is challenging even for people like Allie and me who have degrees in mental health professions and who do coaching work. This is still something that comes up again and again, which is why it is the topic that I'm focusing on in this upcoming webinar. So you'll find the link down in the show notes. All right, let's dive in. Welcome to Single Parenting with Connection, Not Perfection, the podcast that honors your messy reality. It's the support you crave without the usual emotional landmines. I'm your host, Dr. Gila, and I promise I will never tell you to just tag your partner in. Before we start, quick reminder. While I am a licensed psychologist and a certified coach, this podcast is not coaching and it's not therapy, and it's not a replacement for medical or psychological advice. It is for educational and informational purposes only. All right, let's dive in. Allie, welcome. It's such a treat to get to chat with you here on the podcast today, so welcome.
Thank you, Gila. So happy to be here.
I'd love to start with you are an expert on what's called nonviolent communication or NVC. And I know your podcast and a lot of your work focuses on working with couples, but I also know that NVC is really helpful in parenting. I know we don't have time to dive too deep, but can you give folks a high level view of what NVC is and maybe what are some key concepts that you find particularly helpful in terms of parenting?
Totally. So when I teach MVC, I break it down into 3 essential skills and there's 3 essential principles.
Mm.
The 3 essential principles are like the concepts that are so useful in any relationship, especially parenting. So I can walk you through those 3 essential principles.
Great.
So the first is that all feelings are messengers alerting us to our needs.
Mhm.
So to back up even, there's the premise in nonviolent communication is that there are universal human needs that all human beings share no matter how old you are. And we
Mhm.
have these lists of universal needs that we use a lot in NVC training. And I have the lists. We can put a link maybe in the show notes to them, but it's alliemillercoaching.com/feelings and needs, and people can
Mhm.
get these lists of both feelings and needs. But the idea is that they're universal needs, that things like
Mhm.
connection, freedom, meaning, purpose, play, belonging, like different categories of needs that all human beings share. And so this first principle is that all feelings are messengers alerting us to our needs. So anytime we have a feeling, it's a signal letting us know, like, oh, there are some needs either being met or
Mhm.
not being met.
Yeah.
So if it's a feeling like happy or pleased or satisfied, it's a signal that there are important needs being met.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
if it's a harder feeling, right, like frustration or anger or disappointment or jealousy, it's a
Mm.
signal that there are some important needs not being met.
Yeah, I like to call those prickly feelings
Yes,
because
I love that.
right, like when you touch something that prickles, it's not a pleasant experience to have that prick, but it is so helpful and informative, and it's good that we can feel that prick. It sends us an important message.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that way of thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's sending us an important message that we have some important needs that
Mhm.
need our attention.
Mhm.
So this way, we're not thinking of feelings as good or bad or positive or negative. So it's like it helps us
Right.
welcome all those feelings and to get curious about them. And Marshall Rosenberg, who founded Nonviolent Communication, would often talk about these universal human needs as beautiful because
Mm.
we have so much conditioning around thinking like needs are bad or needs are weak, right?
Mhm.
And so I think part of why he would call them beautiful is to counter that cultural conditioning and to think
Mhm.
of it not as bad or weak, but like beautiful. This is like what makes us human. This is like our life force, our life energy is how he would talk about it.
Yeah, and I think that's huge for a lot of single parents, especially this feeling of, like, not wanting to be, quote, unquote, "needy,"
Yeah.
right? That anytime you have needs, we're so focused on trying to support our kids and trying to stand on our own feet and do things, be independent and not be needy, that
Yeah.
it can feel really vulnerable to recognize that you have some unmet needs.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I'm glad you mentioned I was also gonna bring up this is based on Marshall Rosenberg's work, and I wanna say when I did my certification in parent training, that was one of the books that was on the syllabus that it is not a parenting book, but I found it to be the most influential because it was one that I hadn't been exposed to as much before, and it's really so deeply helpful with parenting, so if you do wanna read more about it, his books are great, and even though they're not parenting specific, they are so highly relevant to parenting, so,
Yeah.
yeah, just a shout out to him. Okay, so unmet needs and feelings are messages.
Yeah,
Feelings.
messengers, they're like, "Hey, you have an important need. Let's pay attention." They're like
Yeah,
signaling to the important needs. So that's
yeah.
the first principle. Feelings are messengers alerting us to our needs. And then the second principle is that all actions are attempts to meet needs. So
Mm,
anything I ever say or do is an attempt to meet needs. Anything
mhm,
you ever say or do is an
mhm,
attempt to meet needs. Anything our kiddos ever say or do
mhm,
is an attempt to meet needs, right? So this
mhm.
is I know you talk a lot about like I think you do, like behavior is communication.
Communication, exactly.
So it's like our actions are communicating what our needs are, right? We're
Yep.
taking those actions to meet needs. Might not always be aware of that or conscious
Mhm,
of that, but
mhm.
that's the one of the key principles or assumptions in NVC is that
Yeah,
anytime anyone says anything or does anything, it's motivated by an attempt to meet one or
yeah.
more of these universal human needs.
So when you snap at your kid for the 13th time today, or when your kid kicks you, both of those are an attempt to get your needs met.
Yeah. And just to like share a little bit personal, where this is hardest for me to apply
Mhm.
is that the when I snap at my kid.
Yeah.
Like, I have so much judgment about
Yeah.
myself when I snap at my kid that to remember, like, "Oh, it's because of my needs," like, that's
Mhm.
been one of the hardest things for me to have, like, compassion for myself when my
Mm.
actions don't meet my because here's the thing, it's like, we take actions to meet needs, but then sometimes they don't meet other needs,
Right.
right? Like, I might be, like, trying to protect myself. Like, this morning, my daughter was, like, standing on my shin.
Mm.
And I'm like, you have to understand that I am a person in a body. Like, you can't just stand on me. I was like so annoyed and she got
Yeah.
sad and scared. And I was like, oh, was that scary? And anyway, we worked with it. But like,
Yeah.
I was trying to protect my body.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of my body being hurt
Yeah.
by my kid. It's like, I'm just like fed up. So I had a need for protection, right? Self protection. But in my delivery, I did not meet my need for kindness or gentleness or care for her.
Mm.
Right. So then I felt guilty and like ashamed and sad because I didn't meet my needs for kindness and gentleness and care for her, although I was attempting to meet my beautiful need for self protection.
Right, because needs are not neat and tidy and fit into little isolated boxes. They're multifaceted and gnarled all together. And the other piece is that not only do your own needs conflict sometimes, but I think a really big theme that comes up over and over is what do I do when my needs conflict with my child's needs? Right.
Yeah, it's an interesting framing of needs conflicting because Marshall Rosenberg would often say, like, needs are actually never in conflict. It's our strategies to meet the needs that are in conflict.
Mm.
And so I really think about that a lot in parenting because there are so many moments where it really feels like our needs are in conflict, like
Yeah.
where I'm desperately needing space and
Yep.
she's desperately needing connection.
Hmm.
So, like, I'll go into the other room to try to get some space, and guess who's following me into that room and won't get off me?
Yes. And the more desperately you need the space, the more desperately they need
He
that
needs
connection.
connection.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
"This is impossible," and that's when I scream because 'cause
Yeah.
I'm like, "This feels impossible."
Yeah.
So that's an edge for me that I am, like, continually exploring and
Yeah.
struggling with.
And that is so relatable. I think that probably every single person listening has had that experience. I know I have. That is definitely one of the big challenges. Yeah. And
And
especially
that's
when you
when I
don't have
most
someone else.
Right, that's
Yeah.
when I most wish I could tag out to be like,
Yeah.
"I don't want this child's feelings to be hurt. I
Yeah.
want her need for connection to be met, and I can't meet it in this second. Like, can somebody else please meet it?" And I'm like, "Oh, there's no
Yeah.
one."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then if you back up, and this is like my, wiser self talking right now, like, okay, so I have to attend to that need for space in a meta way, right? Like, so
Mhm.
I get babysitters regularly, right? So that I'm like ongoingly attending to my need for space. I might not
Mhm.
be able to meet it in that very moment when she's desperately needing connection. But if I know, like, okay, Saturday I'll have 3 hours, that can help
Yeah.
relieve some of the frantic panic feeling that comes up
Mhm.
in me of like, I'm never gonna get space. I can never
Yeah.
get space. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
Saturday, like I can make it till Saturday. And then
Yeah.
sometimes then I'm calmer and then I am available to connect with her.
And I feel like this is something you and I have talked a lot about also, this notion that sometimes we get into this mindset of, I need to spend all this time, I need to be like constantly present and connecting with my child. And there's this sort of unrealistic expectation and pressure. And then what happens is that we are sacrificing quality for quantity because we get so resentful, really. The resentment starts coming up and we're like tapped out. And so sometimes reducing the quantity actually helps with connection counterintuitively, because if you can be more intentional around some of, making sure that there is more of that quality connection, but kind of giving yourself permission and releasing yourself from this sense that you have to constantly be having this beautiful present connection with your child, right? Releasing yourself from that and really being more intentional about building in the quality connection, that is an important piece of that. I know you and I have talked
Yeah.
about that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about that lately because you reminded me of that recently.
Mhm.
'Cause I've been we've talked about, like, school resistance, and so
Mhm.
I've been like, "Okay, I think part of the resistance is that she needs more time with me, like, maybe 8 hours at school. She's 5 years old, maybe that's too much for her." So I've been trying to pick her up earlier, which
Mhm.
means less time for me doing my work, which I love, and less time for me just having me time, right?
Mhm.
But I'm doing it because I well, for various reasons, but one of them is because I'm trying to reduce the school resistance, and it seems like maybe it's helping.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear.
Yeah, not entirely, but it seems like maybe. Yeah.
A little
I'm
bit.
not ready to, like, totally say it worked, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And so
But
then the
then I
question
get
is, if
drained.
right, I was gonna say, if you're sacrificing something in that, is there a way for us to meet your needs that are getting sacrificed there in a different way or at a different time, would be the
Yeah.
question that would come up. Yeah.
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 But where I was thinking of you was when I was playing I think it was just yesterday or the other day, and, I was like a zombie
Mhm.
playing. I was, like,
Mhm.
not in it. Like,
Mhm.
so bored. How there's, like, that zone you can
Yeah.
magically enter, and then it's, like, fun and you're, like, connected and you're in it, and when I'm not in that zone, it's kind of torturous.
Yeah.
And it's that, like, a lot of that, like, "Oh, I'm here and I'm doing what she wants me to do because I wanna give her what she wants and what she needs," but it's, like, half-assed and, like, I can't find my way into that actual
Yeah.
play zone.
Yeah. And then I wonder if it does meet what she needs. It's sort of like eating really crummy, low calorie chocolate and then like you're eating a ton of it because it's not satisfying. But if you ate that like really
Mm.
decadent, rich piece of chocolate, that would satisfy that craving in less time and probably fewer calories because you just have the one piece, right?
I would love
Um,
for that to happen.
yeah, and by the way, I'm not advocating counting calories and diet mentality. I'm just saying, like, I think people often get into that diet mentality of like, right, the low fat craze of the 90s or whatever. When really, what we're doing is we're fighting what would really satisfy that need in a deeper way, might actually take less time if we actually lean into the depth of it, the quality of it. And so if you feel like most of your time with her, you're feeling bored and resentful, she might feel that and it might be part of why she's craving connection because it's not filling the quality need, I wonder.
Right. Right. So, like, if you can be my coach for a moment, like, so what do you do with that? Like,
Yeah.
it's like 9 o'clock at night. I'm exhausted. She's still wanting to play.
Yeah.
Or even if it's like freaking 4 o'clock. I mean, I'm tired all the time,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
It's
And
like
so
maybe Saturday mornings I have it in me, or like Sunday mornings I might have it in me, but that's kind of it.
yeah. Yeah. This is part of the rationale
Mm.
behind the concept of special time. I know we've talked a little bit about that. I'm planning on doing a whole episode on that, so stay tuned, listeners. But the idea is that if we can set aside, I'm talking 10 or 15 minutes, even, I think of it really as like almost a meditation, right? It's
Mm.
sort of an active meditation practice. And just like meditation, you're not going to do it perfectly, and it takes practice and it gets easier as you go. But setting aside times where really you are more focused on being present, but also the truth is, even if you're not fully present in those moments, part of the intention is around there not being an agenda in those moments because we spend so much time with our kids where we're trying to get them to do something or to not do something, right? Or we're in conflict with them. And so setting aside these like juicy bits of time and giving yourself a set amount of time. So it's not this like never ending, oh my God, I can't do this forever, right? Just like with meditation, we're not going to
Mm.
try to meditate all day, even though meditation is a beautiful, amazing practice for a lot of people. They're going to set aside a certain amount of time and you're going to build up to it, right? So you're going to
Mhm.
do 5 minutes and then, 6 minutes and then
Mhm.
7 minutes. And so it sometimes requires some of that.
Mhm.
And it also gives your child we have something called a special time timer in our house. You can call it something else, but it's a visual timer. I actually don't do formal special time with my child anymore. I'll talk about this more in that episode. As your kids get older, it can shift what it looks like. But at 5, I think it is helpful to set aside a certain amount of time so that both you and your child know this is dedicated time where I am here, I am with you. I am not going to look at my phone. I am not going to start cooking dinner. I'm not going to, do any of those things. I am here present with you. And it can really like fill their cup in a more satisfying way. And then when you have that regularly, so the ideal is on a daily basis to have a small chunk of time at least with each child one on one. And again, I know there might be a lot of things if you're listening and you're like, I have multiple kids. How do I make this happen? Or I have a neurodivergent kid who doesn't like this kind of thing. I'm going to talk about all of those things that might come up. But for the most part, if you have a regular practice where they know every day I am going to get this really deeply nourishing time with my parent, then their nervous system is less like, when am I going to get that? How am I going to get that? Right? They know they can count on it. If it can be at a consistent time for a lot of kids, that's the most helpful. Again, it varies. Some kids don't like the consistency, but, is that something that you've tried before?
Loosely, but as I'm
Mhm.
listening to you, I feel inspired to do it more intentionally.
Mm, yeah. And we can problem solve, like, there's things that can come up, but I think it's always worth trying. I have been amazed, and I think I lost my train of thought. I think there was a point where what I wanted to say is, even if in that special time moment, you find your mind drifting, because I can pretty much guarantee you it will, especially at the beginning, right? Like, "Oh, when this is done, I need to do XYZ, or I need to remember to put this on my to-do list." So your mind will drift and to bring it back. But what amazes me is that for a lot of kids, even simply being in their presence and not checking your phone, cooking dinner, telling them what to do or what not to do, even if internally you're not super focused, they really cherish that. It is amazing how just being on their level, in their presence, focused on them, it feels really good. I mean, think about it, right? Like, it would feel really good to have another that's part of what coaching is, right? Is like to hold space for someone else and to be focused on them, their experience, their needs, is such a nourishing experience.
I know it because one of the most profound experiences I had in therapy school was in the child therapy class. This was like 20 something years ago, but I still remember it. We were in a
Mm,
child therapy class and we were doing role plays where one student in the class was the child therapist and one student was role playing the kid. And
mm,
I remember when I role played the kid and the student who was role playing the child therapist was paying such close attention to me and holding that space for me and just right there with me. And I was like, whoa, this feels so good and
mm.
so unfamiliar. Like, I was like,
Ah,
I want more of this. Like, I wish I could be a kid and have someone giving me that kind of
yeah,
attention. Or I
yeah,
wish this role play would just last like for hours because it did. If I had such a visceral sense of that.
yeah, yeah,
And so I think about that when I'm playing with her a lot. I think
yeah,
about that. I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I wanna give to her." And then there's sometimes I can, which is amazing, and then there are
yeah.
sometimes I can't.
But I do think that one of the things that is a common pitfall is you hear this and you're like, so then whenever you're with your child, you're trying to have this intense presence. And that is exhausting. No one can sustain that, right? And that will deplete you fast. And so releasing yourself from that, setting aside the intentional time. And again, you don't even have to like be super energetically in the play of it, right? Um Making observations of what they're doing, whether
Mm.
internal or even just like sports casting, as we call it out loud, like, "Oh, I see you just put the cow in the barn," right? Like, just commenting on it helps them feel seen. And
Mhm.
it doesn't mean you have to like jump up and down and do big effortful things. It's so nourishing. And I'm curious, and we don't have to go there if you don't feel comfortable with it, but you said it's such an unfamiliar feeling for you.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what really struck me. I was like, "This is so unfamiliar."
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. So I don't think I got it.
You didn't get it. Yeah. And I wonder if that's part of what feels uncomfortable about it, or maybe even scary sometimes.
Can you say more?
Yeah. So when you think about doing it with your kiddo, right? Is there any part of you that feels resistant to it?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Mm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I'm wondering if your unmet needs, since we're speaking NVC speak, right? If your unmet needs from when you were younger come up in any way in your resistance to doing it with your own child.
Like me wanting to be seen?
Maybe.
I mean, that need is way more met now because that was like 20 years ago in the class, and I've done a lot of healing and I have an amazing therapist. So I do
Yeah.
like now it's a more familiar feeling, like what it's like to be seen.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying because our kids can trigger our own stuff from childhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And we don't have to
Yeah,
go
I don't
down this, but
know.
just something to right, this it stuck out to me that it felt like such an unfamiliar feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know we've talked a lot about resentment in parenting, which I think
Mhm.
is a feeling that a lot of parents are reluctant to admit that they feel.
Yeah, it's a hard one to admit.
It's a hard one,
Yeah.
right?
Especially it's hard so I'm a single mom by choice, so by design, right?
Yeah.
Like, I called this being in, like, so super intentionally. I
Yeah.
spent so much money. It's like years and years of trying.
Yeah.
And, um, then I'm gonna resent her? Like, that makes
Yeah.
no logical sense, right? So, that's been hard for me to really
So
admit and experience.
I hear a lot of shoulds under there.
Yeah, it's just it was so surprising.
Yeah.
Like, all I wanted was this child, like,
Mhm.
with every fiber of my being. And
Mhm.
then, she's like a newborn and she won't sleep. And I'm like
Mm.
enraged.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, this isn't what I expected. This doesn't
Yeah.
fit the narrative.
Yeah. I'm supposed to be grateful. I'm supposed
Yeah.
to be enjoying it. I'm supposed to be delighting in it. Yeah. All the shoulds.
All the shoulds and all the expectations.
Yeah.
It's just not what I expected.
Right. Right. Because the shoulds, we talk about shoulds and there's sort of this implication, and it's true that there are shoulds coming at us from the outside. But I think there's also a lot of internal shoulds. Some of them are internalized external shoulds, and some of them are our own stuff, right? Our own
Mhm.
expectations.
Mhm. And with the NVC lens, it's like, yeah, and those expectations are connected to our needs and our values, right?
Mhm.
Like all the shoulds are connected to our needs and our values.
Mhm.
Like, oh, I value like love. I
Yeah.
value like warm welcome of any
Yeah.
human, especially this one who I very intentionally brought in.
Yeah.
So it's that pain of like not being able to meet that need because of
Yeah.
other needs like sleep
Yeah.
for F's sake.
Yeah.
It's so hard to be loving and patient and gentle and kind when I'm so flippin' sleep deprived,
Yep.
right? And just holding that, like, oh, I need sleep. And oh, I wish I could be so kind to this
Yeah.
vulnerable human being.
Yeah.
And so when I can't hold all that, like I go to blame. And this is what humans do, right? Like, we either blame the kid or our partner or whoever, or we blame ourselves, or we do both. Right. And
Mhm.
so that's part of what's happening in our household. I'm like bouncing around, blaming my 5 years ago, blaming my newborn kid, then blaming
Mhm.
myself, then like it's just,
Mhm.
and I'm grateful for my NVC practice because another concept in NVC is that like any blame or judgment is about your needs. It's just like
Mm.
the feelings are messengers to your needs. So is the blame thinking. So are the judgments. They're just letting you know like you have some
Right.
important needs.
Right.
So I try to come back to that, right? If I'm blaming her, it's like, okay, what are my needs? If I'm blaming myself, okay, what are my needs?
Yep. And that was one thing that I wanna sort of call out here for the listeners is another element of should here of when you have the background that you have, right? You're a therapist, you're a coach, you have such amazing knowledge and experience. And it's still really hard. I say this
Yeah.
all the time, right? Like I'm a neuropsychologist, I'm a clinical psychologist, certified parenting coach. It's still hard. And so I just want to name that because for anyone listening, I hope that's validating to hear that this is hard stuff even if you have that experience and knowledge and practice. It's legitimately and understandably hard.
Yeah. 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 It's like we all have the things we struggle with. We all
Yeah.
have challenges.
Yeah. I did wanna make sure we went back to because you said there were 3 sort
Yeah.
of core principles, so we
So
did the
the
first
third we were talking about indirectly, which is the third MVC. So the first is feelings are messengers alerting us to our needs.
right?
The second is all actions, all behaviors are attempts to meet needs.
Mhm.
And the third is that everybody's needs matter.
Hmm.
So that's a really interesting one in the parent-child dynamic because
Yeah.
the kids' needs are so big and they don't have other ways to meet them like we do as adults because there's
Mhm.
that power dynamic, that access to resources dynamic.
Right.
So that's another thing I've really been grappling with over these 5 years. Like, how do I hold everybody's needs matter? Like, where do my needs really fit in when it's with a baby or a
Mhm.
toddler or now a 5-year-old?
Mhm.
Um,
Yes, and this is
yeah.
also something that so I know you and I have had a lot of parenting conversations through things that you've, been grappling with, trying to work through, and I think one of the themes that has come up several times is this idea of giving yourself permission to have your own needs and for those to matter because you so deeply value and are invested in and really want to meet your child's needs and sometimes that ends up leading you to believe or act as though your needs don't matter, right? That gets lost in it. And there's this internal tension sometimes.
Yes, and that goes back to, like, I did a lot of work on codependency in my 20s and 30s,
Mm.
and MVC really helps with that because of the, like, "my needs matter." Like, when I was in an MVC training, we would every time we would meet, which was every weekend for 9 months, the teacher would have us say, "Everybody's needs matter. That includes me." So all of us who were raised to think our needs didn't matter would be, like, weeping, like, "My needs matter?" Like,
Yeah.
and so I was, like, really steeped in that before I had my daughter, and now I'm like, "Wait, like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
How do they fit in?"
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a question mark for me. It's like a living question. I don't have a good answer, I don't think.
Have you had any insights or any things that have been helpful with
I mean,
that?
I guess what my wise self said maybe like 10 minutes ago, right? Like, I have to attend to those needs maybe in other ways. So, like, yeah, if I have a need for space, like making sure I have a sitter, once or
Mhm.
twice a week.
Mhm.
So I'm attending to that need for space, even if I can't meet it in every moment.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna ask and sort of wonder is it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's needs have to or even can be met in every moment.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So your needs matter and your
Yes.
child's needs matter.
Yeah.
And the reality is that they will not always be met.
Yes. Mine and hers.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's hard for me.
Mhm.
I'm okay with mine not being met. It's harder for me that hers won't be met.
Yeah.
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 And I don't know if all parents have that as much or if this might be a single mom by choice thing. I'm not sure. It's like I
Hmm.
brought her in, like I got to meet her needs.
There's like a sense of responsibility.
Yeah, cuz it was so intentional. I mean, I know for a lot of parents it was super intentional and even parents for whom it wasn't intentional, they still probably feel that responsibility. But I do wonder about that like
Mm.
because of the intention like such deliberate
Yeah.
design
Yeah.
if the guilt is, like, bigger.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I hear a lot of guilt under that, right?
Yeah,
There's the responsibility, and then the flip side of that is guilt when it feels like you're not living up to that responsibility.
right. Yeah, and Marshall Rosenberg would say, like, guilt is like a combination I think it was him who would say this, I feel like I learned this in NVC. Guilt is like a combination of, like, some belief you're having and
Mhm.
also beautiful needs, right? So,
Mhm.
again, it's like, "Oh, I want all children to feel so welcomed and so nourished and so held in this
Mm.
world and so respected," right?
Yeah.
And so anytime I can't provide that for mine,
Mhm.
it's just devastating, and instead of feeling the grief of that, I go to guilt. So often I
Yeah.
think underneath the guilt is like a grief or a disappointment or a like, oh, it's like powerlessness, like wishing our systems were set up better so that
Yes.
these
Oh,
precious
goodness, yes.
children could have their needs met more often.
Right.
And that's what people, like you and my therapist have reminded me of. Like, it's not you, it's the system. Of course, you want your kid to have all this, and like you are one
Yeah.
human being, and we're not set up.
Yeah.
We need more people to be tending to these children.
And to you, right? I'll add
And
you
to
back
me.
into that, right? Your needs are not being met partly because of reality, how life works, but also because there are a lot of systems that don't work for
Yeah.
single parents, for parents in general, and
Right.
for single parents specifically.
Yeah. The other day, it was soon after talking to you, so you might have influenced this. I was struggling and I was in the shower alone. It was amazing. And I was thinking about just one struggle I was having with my daughter. And then this mantra came into my head. It's not you, it's not me, it's society.
Mm.
And then I kept saying that to myself over and over again. Because of that blame thinking, I was like,
Yeah,
what's wrong with her? What's wrong with me? Just kind of bouncing back and forth in my head about everything my brain thinks is wrong with her, everything my brain thinks is wrong with me. And then I would just
yeah.
say, it's not you, it's not me, it's society. Because it's like,
Mm.
point the blame there instead of at
Yeah,
me or her.
yeah, and it sort of releases some of the pressure, right?
Yeah,
Like, yeah, I love that, and that really sort of, like, took some of it released that pressure for you, it took some of that responsibility, right? One of the things that I remember really stood out to me when I read one of the NVC books by Marshall was this idea of false feelings that often things that we say, you might have heard about I statements, right? I feel X when Y. And often the feelings that we put in there are not actually feelings, right? They are
right.
thoughts, they're judgments. So, like, I feel criticized is not a feeling, right? It's a perception, it's a judgment.
Yeah,
And I don't know, what you were saying brought that to mind also of like how we're perceiving the world and how we're interpreting things, that can really affect our feelings and vice versa.
so if I feel disrespected, right, that's going to
Mhm.
fuel my blame thinking. That's going to
Right.
fuel my anger at my
Right.
kid or my partner or whoever.
Right.
So,
And learning to recognize that, right?
yeah,
Like,
this is a like a light bulb for a lot of people when they learn MVC. Like, oh my
yeah,
God, disrespected isn't a feeling.
it's not a feeling. It's a
No, it's a like,
perception. It's
yeah,
an
it's an interpretation of
interpretation.
what the other
Yep.
person is doing.
Yep.
Right. So a way to work with that is like, okay, so if you're like, what am I feeling? I feel disrespected. Okay. That's an interpretation. So what do I feel inside? Like what emotion do I feel when I think I'm being disrespected? Right?
Mhm.
I feel mad, I feel scared, I feel hurt,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And those are feelings.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I wanna say, like, it's beautiful to witness how much intentionality and thought you do put into parenting, and I've seen you sort of grapple with things and, I think make shifts that have had a meaningful difference for you, and I'm curious, is there anything that has been really kind of a light bulb moment around parenting that has made a positive difference in some of what's been challenging?
Yeah, we're going to need a long pause for this cuz my brain does not track anything good.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I could just talk to you for hours about everything that's hard, but to talk about what's actually
And
shifted.
I think that's a really, interesting, but also, like, important thing to name because it's not just your brain, right? Like, so there is this negativity bias that our brains have. They are much better at recognizing challenging and negative things than the positives, and this is part of why having a gratitude practice of some kind can be really powerful. I do think it's important to give space for the challenging stuff and the negative, not to exclusively focus on awe and gratitude and delight. But sometimes it takes intentionality to notice the gratitude and the awe and the delight. It's harder.
Totally. I
Yeah.
know. I saw this thing the other day on Facebook that says, or on Instagram, it says, if you consider yourself self aware, but only acknowledge the things you need to change and not the things you do really well, you aren't self aware. You're just being mean to yourself.
Ah,
And I was like, oh, Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing, if you think of like a spotlight on a stage, the spotlight not only lights up part of the stage and not the whole stage, but in fact, the area right around the spotlight is even darker. So it's not
Mm.
like there's just no light there. It's actually darker than if there was no
Mm.
light in the spotlight. And I like to think about that in terms of our negativity bias, because when we really focus on and spotlight the really hard and negative things, sometimes it can be even harder. Like it sort of darkens some of the things around it. We miss it. It's easier to miss it.
Yeah. It's so funny. I'm so growth oriented that I'm like, yeah, I really need to grow that like
Mm.
capacity to notice what I'm doing well.
Mm.
Always becomes
Yeah.
another like deficiency. But I am remembering something that felt really good that I did the other day, so I can share that.
Yeah.
So we got home from a late, long day and it was dark and because it's getting darker earlier and it just feels so much later earlier. But
Yeah.
anyway, it was dark and I just wanted to get inside from the car ride and my daughter really wanted to get herself out of the car seat, which she can sometimes do and sometimes can't do. And she was really struggling to do it. And she was
Mm.
starting to get really distressed. And I was offering to help. And every time I offered to help, she would get more distressed and more frustrated. And, a big part of MVC, which I can't believe we haven't talked about yet, is empathy. Like
Mhm.
really meeting somebody where they're at, tuning into and imagining what they might be feeling, what they might be needing, not because you have to know for sure, but to just be curious about that.
Mhm.
Under all the behaviors, there's feelings and needs. So trying to tune into that, right? So I was doing that, but in kind of like a half assed way. And she was just getting more and more frustrated. And so I realized, like, okay, I need to pause and like really try to tap into empathy. And so I did that and I kind of pulled back in my brain and I was thinking, like, what's going on beyond this moment? Oh, she's
Mm.
been hanging out with an older friend a lot and another friend who's a year older. Like the two people she has been spending most time with are older than her and can do more things than she can do. And so I
Mm.
was like, is it really hard when you see Alice and Fiona doing some things you can't do? And she was like, yeah. And it like, that
Mm.
really landed, and that was like we connected in that moment. It was like I was with
Yeah.
her. I
Yeah.
wasn't trying to get her out of the car. I was just, like, trying to connect with where she's at in that moment, how it was
Yeah.
bigger than just the seatbelt,
Yeah.
bigger than just that moment. It's like that was getting triggered in that moment.
Yeah.
And that just grounded me, and then I was able to be more present with her, and then she ended up letting me help her get out, like, we pressed the button together, and then but
Mm.
she was crying. Not but she was crying, and she was crying,
Yeah.
and I held her, and I brought her inside, and she was crying a lot, and she doesn't cry a lot.
Mm.
Um, and
You
so
unlocked something.
something felt like it was unlocked, and so we
Yeah.
got into bed, and I was just holding her, and then she started talking about how she doesn't like being the smallest kid except for one other kid of her friends
Is this at school that
at
she's
school. Yeah, and
Mm.
I had never known that she was aware of her size, because she is
Mm.
on the shorter end, and she always has been on the smaller side of that thing at
Yeah.
the pediatrician. Yeah, so she's one of the shortest kids, and, so this was the first time she, like, shared about that, and so I am proud of myself because I really believe that my capacity to tap into that deeper empathy is what helped her cry, is what
Yeah.
helped her unlock that and then share more about this bigger stuff that's happening in her world that
Yeah.
I had no idea what was going on. I just
Sorry.
had all this compassion for her.
Yeah. And that might give an added layer of context to the school resistance also.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it could be.
So in that moment, you were able to pause,
Mhm.
drop your agenda, right? Which is
Mhm.
so hard, right?
Mhm.
So I talk about stop, drop, and roll, right? You stopped, you dropped your agenda, and you stayed with her in the frustration.
Mhm.
You did what I call an empathy check, right?
Mm.
You didn't say, "Oh, you're frustrated." You
Mhm.
said, "Is this what's happening maybe? Like, is this let me take a guess."
Yes,
An empathy
exactly.
guess, right?
Mhm.
And she might have said no, But you really tapped into something that helped unlock something for her.
Mhm.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it was really it was a good one.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for asking so I could remember.
Yeah. I know we need to wrap up. It's been even longer than planned because I could talk to you forever, but anything that you want to share with listeners that we haven't covered? I know there's a lot more that we could chat about, but
Yeah, the principles and the skills, like empathy is one of the skills of NVC. The other 2 I'll
Mhm.
just name. There's 3 main skills. So empathy is one, self-empathy is one, so
Mm,
connecting with your own feelings and needs. And then the third is honest self-expression without blame. So, and that has to do with like making requests.
mm,
So all those skills super helpful to bring into the parenting relationship, and then just those principles again of feelings are messengers alerting us to our needs. All
mhm,
actions are attempts to meet needs and everybody's needs matter.
mhm.
Yeah, just so helpful for all relationships. And
Yeah.
yeah, if people want those lists of feelings and needs that I provide, they're at alliemillercoaching.com/feelings and needs.
Yeah, and I will definitely put that in the notes for this episode. So thank you so much. It's always so great to chat with you. I appreciate you sharing so vulnerably and I think really helpfully about the NVC stuff, but also about your personal experiences. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's so good to share, it's like
Mm.
it's an isolated path in a lot of ways, and so to be able to talk about I appreciate just being able to
Yeah.
talk about it, and I hope that it does serve listeners in some way. Hopefully, they feel less alone. Hopefully,
Yeah.
they're learning something that might help them. So I'm grateful for
Yeah.
the opportunity and so grateful
Yeah.
for your support.
Oh, thank you. And actually, that reminds me, Allie is in my Facebook group. So if you want to come connect with either of us and hang out there, you can join that. It's called Single Parenting with Connection, Not Perfection. So we'd love to have you there. All right. Thanks, Allie.
Thanks, Gila.
That's it for this episode. I am so glad you found your way here. And remember, even if you're on your own, you don't have to do it alone. You've got this.